I knew I was Black when, a poem by Leticia Wilson. I knew I was Black when, in professional or personal settings, being asked about my age with a non-Black guesser seldomly getting it right. Black don't crack, aging gracefully. I knew I was Black when I was encouraged by family and friends because of Eurocentric standards of beauty and acceptance to wear my natural hair up until I get the job. Thank goodness for the Crown Act. I knew I was Black when, no matter where I travel to on the globe, the most common question is, where are you from? And then followed up with, where are you really from? My response is, I'm a global citizen. I bloom wherever I'm planted. I knew I was Black when, in my school age youth, being coached by my mother to say, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I knew I was Black when Team Vaseline over lotion to conquer the ashiness on my skin. I knew I was Black when expert code switching language vernacular living in the third space. I knew I was Black when spending summers in Martha's Vineyard Oak Bluffs with uncles and aunts and cousins. Our favorite place to swim was the Inkwell Beach, affectionately named the Inkwell because when Black people swim at the beach, it looks like ink in a well. I knew I was Black when I was accustomed to being hyper vigilant when the sun goes down, hearing phrases from my parents, you better get home before the streetlights come on, or my double consciousness of embedded knowledge of the Green Book and awareness of sundown towns. I knew I was Black when I walked into any professional spaces, counting the number of Black people and always acknowledging with a nonverbal head nod. If you know, you know. I knew I was Black when visiting melanated countries, our voices are commonly centered in media, on currency, holding positions at all levels, from the janitor to the magistrate judge. I knew I was Black when I'm drawn to the music based on the rhythmatic beat of the drums that summons the ancestors while in a trance my foot taps, my fingers snap, my head bob, and my hips sway almost as if my body is a new instrument in the band. I knew I was Black when, in my adolescent years, being teased that I spoke white, an informal way of being othered in my own community. I knew I was Black when raised in a communal mindset, family reunions, HBCU homecomings, money dances at weddings, cotillions and botillions, baptismal and naming ceremonies, Sunday dinner, food trains delivering meals to some experiencing difficult times. I knew I was Black when a celebration was not complete without the three F's: family, food, and fun. And don't forget about the line dances. I knew I was Black when a non-Black person would ask, what should I call you? Black, African American, African diaspora? Our collective response is we are not a monolith. And I am not the voice, but a voice. I knew I was Black when warned about the microaggressive language of the twos, too expressive, too outspoken, too professional, too quiet. I knew I was Black when, in my adult years, being exposed to new words that described my lived experience. Superwoman syndrome, imposter treatment, horizontal, weathering, nourishing, rest is resistance. I knew I was Black when oil was applied to my skin and it glimmered like gold on the coast of our ancestral homeland. I knew I was Black when wearing bright colors illuminates the richness of my skin tone and reminds me that the light I carry comes from God. I knew I was Black when double consciousness was a way of my being and surviving. I knew I was Black when in everyday interactions, when passing a young Black boy or girl, it was my duty to hold space, to let them know they are seen, heard, and valued. I knew I was Black when getting around close family and friend provokes communications at all decibels. Soft whispers to flamboyant clapping, stomping, and shouting. The inflection of our voices is a pure expression of our emotions, misunderstood in some spaces as anger or disgust. I knew I was Black when going to an HBCU, historical Black college or university, shifted my perspective to center my positionality. Step shows, faith, homecoming, mandatory convocation, cooperative education experiences, trip to the homeland of Africa was my rite of passage. I knew I was Black when my hair has limitless versatility in all types and textures and hairstyles. Over the years, my hair has been in wave nouveau, jerry curl, short fade, braids, crocheted, and the poetic justice, thick, burnt in braids, finger waves, straightening comb from the stovetop, and locks. I knew I was Black when, while walking into stores or through city streets, individuals clutching their purse only when I walk by. I knew I was Black when, in my kitchen, the staple seasonings are Lawry's seasoned salt, garlic, pepper, smoked paprika, and chicken bouillon cubes. I knew I was Black when high stepping and soul train lines can emerge anywhere for any reason. Choir rehearsal, marching band parades, flaunting a new fly outfit, house parties, company gatherings, and conferences. I knew I was Black when the culture sets the trends without even trying. How we dress, music, praise and worship, and our natural ways of being is always the highest form of flattery duplicated but never replicated. I knew I was Black when the informal rites of passage was playing bones, aka dominoes, while talking smack, slamming down a card in a game of spades, watching movies like The Imitation of Life, Beat Street, Breakin', The Wiz, Coming to America, School Days, and Black Panther. I knew I was Black when showing up on the at any athletic field, track and field, basketball, gymnastics, tennis, golf, and many others made our opponents shudder at the sheer sight of us in uniform. I knew I was Black when my face speaks before my mouth moves. I knew I was black when growing up in a growing up in a household and having a picture of black Jesus crucified on the cross with dark chocolate skin tones, locks longer than shoulder length, and chiseled facial features. I knew I was black when, as a child, looking in the refrigerator for something to drink, the flavors were depicted by the color of Kool-Aid, red and grape. I knew I was black when you better put a handle on it. Respect our elders was and still is an unbridled character trait, referring to our elders by auntie, uncle, ma'am, sir, Mr., Mrs., well into our adulthood. I knew I was black when our church service is not only rooted in teaching of Christ, but also considered an experience. Our hands act as a tambourine, clapping in various cadences to enhance the song, turning to our neighbor, prompted by the pastor's word, swaying side to side with the choir worshiping in song, our young people department, aka YPD, mesmerizing scriptures and singing new gospel songs in front of the congregation. I knew I was black when I get to choose the spaces to contribute or remain silent, to discern psychological safe places and spaces and strategies to preserve my best energy. I knew I was black when you tell a story about your life experience and you feel relieved when you don't have to explain the backstory. They just get it. I knew I was black when, nope, I don't eat fried chicken or watermelon in front of mixed company, period. I knew I was black when an offensive comment or statement is made and I have to think, do I call them out or do I call them in? Do I make this a teachable moment or do I exhaust my energy storage? Should I correct them on the spot so they don't have convenient amnesia or let it slide so it won't be my demise? Mental gymnastics is exhausting. I'm tired. I knew I was black when, as a child, I was told you have to be better to be considered good. While as an adult, understanding respectability politics, it shows up as dress equity at work. I knew I was black when